What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you come into the channel and check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to talk about some statements that Cris Carter made regarding what's the kid name? Shedeur Sanders, right? Cris Carter, for y'all younger folks, people who don't know, Cris Carter played in the NFL for over 10 years, and I got some stats and stuff right here about Cris Carter. Let me pull this picture back up though, so y'all can know what I'm talking about. There's a younger guy in the NFL too named Cris Carter. But look, so Cris Carter, let me see, a member of the NFL's all-decade team in the 90s. Cris Carter had 10 touchdowns or more. Let me see, in each season at least 6 times. So 6 different times in the NFL, he had 10 touchdowns. Let me see some more of Cris Carter's stats. He recorded 70 or more catches in a season 10 times. And let me see, had 10 times 100 yards. So 10 times he went over 100 yards, right? And or 100 yards 42 times in his career. My fault. So Cris Carter, and also Cris Carter is in the Hall of Fame. He's in the Football Hall of Fame. So Cris Carter played for the Minnesota Vikings. That's where I remember, watching Cris Carter. So that Cris Carter definitely was a baller. He could play. I remember playing with the Minnesota Vikings. He was there the same time that Randy Moss was there. He was kind of like Randy Moss's mentor, right? But Cris Carter spoke on the situation that's going on with Shedeur Sanders, right? And I think that Cris Carter made some good points. I'm gonna play some audio of what Cris Carter said about the Shedeur Sanders situation, and then what I'm gonna do after I let some of this audio play, I'm gonna react to it. I might even interrupt it at certain times, because sometimes if I don't write stuff down, I mess around and forget. So I'm gonna just go ahead and jump in where
I appreciate you, man. All right, so let's talk about what everybody was talking about. First of all,
and by the way, this is Cris Carter was on this podcast called Fully Loaded, and so that's what I'm reacting on.
I never watched the NFL draft. Never. Okay. I don't know that a lot of people do watch the NFL draft. Maybe they do.
I always watch the draft.
Of course you watch the draft. You play in the NFL, you're a Hall of Famer. But do a lot of people watch the NFL draft?
Can you hold the line when chaos erupts?
Commercials already. All right, man. Let me skip past this commercial. Get back to Cris Carter.
How many watch it?
We got to get Drew to get the exact numbers.
See how many people watch it. I know there were a couple hundred people supposedly sitting outside in Green Bay.
Yeah, a couple 100,000, yes.
And there ain't that many people in the city. So everybody's excited. I think a lot of people were excited. I want to know where Shedeur was going to go. I thought that was good. That was entertaining to me. Not what ended up happening, but prior to, I'm like, what's going to happen? Who's going to get picked first? Because usually I'm like, this dude will go first, this dude will go second, this go third. And then as he kept rolling, how many? 13 million people watch the draft. Damn, if NFL's got some shit figured out. All right.
Yes.
So I'll tell you what, I watched the beginning. I watched on the NFL Network. And then I went to ESPN.
Yes, different coverage. Yes.
Oh, dude, I would rather literally have you take nails, and put them into my legs than me having to listen. Is Rich Eisen? Does he run it?
He's NFL Network.
Yeah, NFL Network. Him, Kurt Warner. I'm going to pass it to Kurt Warner now.
For him to be a first rounder. But there's a number of things. It's not one thing. Last year when Deion interviewed for the Dallas Cowboys job, that did not help Shedeur. Now it helped Deion get a new contract in Colorado, but long-term it didn't help Shedeur, because the Giants, they're coached in their last year, general manager in their last year. If they struggle, the Giants potentially, an option would be look at Deion as the head coach. So why would I draft a kid? Like, they missed out on that. Like, they obviously, they didn't think this all the way through. And I think there were a number of teams that had that in the back of their mind, and they don't believe his talent is generational. They do believe that guys are more athletic, and guys.
So you know what? That didn't occur to me either. The fact that Deion Sanders like some of the coaches that could be drafting Deion Sanders' son, Shedeur Sanders, could really be thinking about like, could his father be coming in, if they don't perform, and then they could be out of a job. So that's something to consider too. But I wonder how Deion Sanders would have got around that if he wanted to interview, for an NFL job, or maybe he should have waited until his son was drafted into the NFL. If that's really what affected, his part of what affected him, his stock dropping, for that draft.
Have bigger arms, and they do believe he's been coddled. He's been coached by Deion his whole life. Now, there's been benefits to that, but this is the first time it's been a detriment.
So his tape, because he had last season, 4,000 yards, 37 touchdowns, NCAA leading 74% completion rate. Then he said, in his line, was his offensive line good?
Offensive line was no good.
Okay,
wide receivers, 3 wide receivers drafted in the NFL.
Yeah, but offensive line,
no good.
I'm getting to him. So you talk about him holding the ball too much. Sometimes people are coming to hit you, and you don't want to throw it to the other team. Is that not fair enough?
Yeah, let me talk football though.
Yeah,
there's a reason why a lot of dudes hold on to the ball too, is because the coverage has not revealed where the ball, and their anticipation is not as good as some of the other guys.
So sometimes he ate the balls because he couldn't pick up the coverage prior to, and the defense outsmarted him.
Yes, and he likes guys to be a little more open before he lets it go, and he doesn't have a big time arm. He's not a big guy. He's not overly athletic. So his measurables are not, say, first round measurables, but he played football like a first rounder.
But his tape's first round tape, but his measurables are not first round measurables.
Well, you don't play football all the time. You're a human being the rest of the time. And how you're going to be in the locker room, how he already.
All right, so before they start going into that, right? So he said that he made a point I want to talk about, like as far as like playing quarterback at the college level and then playing quarterback at the NFL level. So in college, you can throw, a lot of times these college quarterbacks are throwing to guys that are open, that are wide open, because they got, they can get a lot of separation. Now, in the NFL, it's not always like that. Like in the NFL, they say that you're throwing them open, as opposed to in college, you'll see somebody, open, and then you could throw to them, and there's more room for error because they created that separation. Whereas though at the next level, it won't be like, it won't be like that. You're going to have to deliver that ball to a certain spot or a certain area at the right time, or either it's going to be intercepted. So that's basically, I'm getting from what Cris Carter is saying right there.
He came up with this line of merchandise, legendary, like he's already calling himself legendary. All those things are problems. And once the teams that weren't looking at starters, the makeup of a backup in the NFL is totally different.
I understand. I understand that he's probably not going to be
the backup in the NFL. He doesn't have a media team following him. He doesn't have cameras following him. He doesn't have all these social media, all these things that they're doing.
But you wouldn't let that happen, right? The team wouldn't let that happen. If you're a back quarterback, wouldn't the team just say, you're not doing all this shit?
The team doesn't have the right to do that. The team would give you advice to say that I think you should concentrate on learning the playbook and being an NFL player, but they can't mandate what you do in your downtime.
Yeah. I mean, again, I just think for me, like I'm listening to him, and I listen, he fell.
Now I can see, all right, why a team wouldn't want a backup quarterback, with a lot of, a popular backup quarterback, because anytime a team starts struggling, then the first thing the fans talk about, you'll hear the fans just they call for, for that backup quarterback, to throw that backup quarterback in there. And so that right there probably will be a issue too. Like this whole situation surrounding Shedeur Sanders was just I don't know, it just was a lot. They had a lot going on, a lot to really think about, and a lot of different things to weigh in. But it didn't seem like this situation was well thought out. So let me get back to some more of what Cris Carter is talking about.
Did he fall a lot further than you thought he would fall?
Yes.
I mean,
bro, he probably. I mean, the contract situation, the signing bonus or lack of signing bonus,
the amount of money
that he missed out on. I mean, you're talking about top 5 pick. You're talking about $30 to $40 million. And then it sets you up for that next contract. They set you up for that option year. But right now, he's working check to check, man. Like, he's not going to get a big signing bonus. There's not going to be a big guarantee. Any day they want to get rid of him in the week, they can get rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really tough when they draft someone at your position because only one quarterback plays. It's not like wideout. It's not like DB.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the 3rd round, they drafted Dylan Gabriel.
Which he's better than.
So, all right. So Shedeur Sanders is on. He's drafted and he's on the team, and there's 4 other quarterbacks there. And so that's what I was wondering. Like, as far as playing time is concerned, right? Like, how was they going to divvy up the playing time? Number one, and then how is Shedeur Sanders going to get any better? You know, when he's probably going to be playing, you know, behind at least a couple other quarterbacks. So that's going to be a tough situation. And you know, and for somebody like to put themselves in a position, and Cris Carter's going to go into this, whereas though he playing check to check, and he really don't have any leverage, you know. So you coming into a situation where you got to hit the ground, he got to hit the ground running, you know. And a lot of times, guys who get drafted in the later rounds in the NFL, they wind up not even sticking. So that he's in a tough position.
He's a better. I'm asking. He's a
well,
better.
I'm just going to tell you right now, they're slotted. Draft picks are lane assignments.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got lane 3. Shedeur drafted in lane round 6 is in lane 8 or lane 1. He's either run out by the fence by the kids, or he's running in lane 1 where he's got to run that long turn.
Yeah,
that's the way the game is.
Got a lot of work to do,
and it's hard to get to your second contract when you're working check to check.
All right, so here are the quarterbacks they're going to have in the quarterback room: Deshaun Watson, Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur. Who's going to play?
Yeah.
Who?
All right, so now I'm thinking that they probably will play Shedeur, and the 2 young guys, Joe Flacco. They might keep Joe Flacco. I think that Deshaun Watson, he'll probably be somebody who's on their way out. I'm not too familiar with the guy Pickett, so I don't know what's going to be his situation. But they're gonna have to get those 2 young guys in that rotation.
I think either Shedeur or Kenny Pickett are going to start.
I would agree with that.
I think they're going to keep Joe Flacco around just long enough to give him some seasoning.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to be in an unusual quarterback situation because they're going to have to keep 2 rookies.
Yeah.
They're going to have to keep Dylan, and they're going to have to keep.
So why pick Shedeur after you pick Dylan?
Because value. Like when you're trying to put your roster together, and there's a kid that you can get for a 6th-round investment and put him in your locker room, and you were thinking about potentially drafting him.
No, I get why I took Shedeur. That was, I think I was sitting there waiting. Why wouldn't somebody else grab him anyway? Why take Gabriel? You think he was a better pick for them over Shedeur at that time?
Man, something happened with the Browns between day 2 and day 3. Okay, because with Shedeur available, and it's not like, okay, I'm prone to get a lefty, which Dylan is a lefty compared to Shedeur. The kid's got the most starts in the history of college football, Gabriel. And then Shedeur's still on the book that they can pick him up. But something had to change in their philosophy because they could have got Shedeur with the 3rd-round pick. Something changed between ownership, management, the general manager. Something changed between day 2 and day 3.
And what bothers me the most about the measurables is this kid ain't been in trouble. Has he? I mean, he ain't got no like charges. He's not out. I don't know him. So I understand. I think the struggle for me is you don't guys when they walk in the NFL, don't guys just.
Yeah, you hear about guys who who have, trouble in college, or, or have, they get arrested like right before it's time for them to get drafted. And sometimes their stock drop, they drop and they fall in the draft, but not this much, this to fall as much, this kid went, 100, number 144. That's a big drop. And that's, in the 5th round. So that's a really, really big drop. But
get humbled. When they walk in the locker room, like even before you have to humble them, don't they walk in and look around and be like, man, like don't we think Shedeur is smart enough to know he's not at Jackson State and he's not at Colorado?
No.
You don't think so?
I listened to too many of his answers. I saw too many of the outtakes. I saw too many times he was working out with other players, and he said things that I thought were highly questionable for my franchise quarterback.
So like what?
When he was working out with Cam Ward, him and Cam Ward, the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Hey, man, you want to cut a rap video together? No, I want to be known as a football player.
And he's like, what do you do for fun? He's like, I play football. But do you think somebody, you talk about some of the great coaches you had, like let's use Tomlin. No, we can't use that. Let's use Tomlin. He walks into Pittsburgh, which obviously is in Cleveland now. Tomlin can't control that? Or he chooses
You can
not
only
to?
control so much. If you draft a guy in the 1st round, you're also empowering whatever that is. So
yeah, that's true. Okay. So even with Tomlin, like Tomlin he had problems with the Antonio Brown when Antonio Brown was there. Now, when Antonio Brown first started out in Pittsburgh, it wasn't an issue until, he had been there for a few years, and then Antonio Brown has started to, his personality has started to change and everything. And even this year, I forgot the wide receiver that the Steelers had this year, but they got a wide receiver now who's a diva wide receiver. And sometimes it's, you want to be able to, as a coach, you probably want to be able to avoid certain situations, especially if a kid is coming in and coming in that this guy is going to be it's going to take work to deal with this kid. So, and he might be a distraction. They might have seen him as a distraction. So that might be part of what played into their reasoning for not picking him up.
So if he comes in, he's got a media crew, you draft him in the 1st round, you're our quarterback, you're accepting that. So you're either teaching it or you're tolerating it.
So if he had went to the combine, if he had good interviews, he'd have been a top. He might have gotten picked by the Giants early.
Top 10. He's not going to get by the Raiders, and he's not going to get by New Orleans.
If he had done, if those things were better.
Why wouldn't you sit down with people? And something these kids never understand, even if you're a top 10 pick, you're in the NFL for a long time. Yeah. So your interview, your tape, people in the room that see you, someone can like you in the room. They might not draft you 5-10 years later, man.
You're looking for a guy, you're looking to trade, and they remember your interview.
Yes.
The interview you had.
It's a small world.
Did you know that when you were his age?
Yes, I knew that.
How did you learn it?
Well, I was at Ohio State, and we had extensive media training, but this whole thing with Deion and the media and everything, like it's out of control. Like it did not help him. It helped him make money in college because he got followers, but it actually hurt him as far as him getting a job as an NFL quarterback.
You mean as Shedeur, his social media stuff with Shedeur?
Yes.
It hurt him.
Yeah, that's what I would want to know. Like, all right, Deion Sanders, his father, Hall of Fame football player, with his experience in the NFL, I wonder why, people are saying that he wasn't, Shedeur Sanders was not more prepared when it came to doing these, for these interviews for these teams. And some people think that Shedeur and what's the other kid named Shiloh, they have that same type of arrogance that their father have, but they don't have the the accolades and anything to go along with it. So, and people don't appreciate that. They think that these kids are entitled. And so they definitely going to push back on that. But I'm going to get back to what some more of what Cris is talking about.
What else hurt him? What else?
Lack of ability, lack of leadership. I hear you on everything you're saying. I'm not disputing any of that as far as what you're saying and what people thought. But I'm like, I can't imagine being an NFL head coach. And like, this is my deal. I agree if you're a first round pick compared to your 6th-round pick. I get,
But if you don't have to deal with it, when 99% of all your players understand that, but you got one person that you have
don't
to.
think they could get him to understand that real fast. I know you've
Let
heard
me tell you what he understands today.
Okay.
He ain't running shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what they taught him a great lesson.
Okay.
Like, you don't have this figured out. Your dad don't have this figured out.
Who's they?
Quinn's overnight transformation.
That's for real right there, right? Because now with Shedeur Sanders being drafted in the, in the 5th round, no signing bonus, and playing from check to check. If he mess up or if he become a distraction at all, they the Cleveland Browns can get rid of him. So he don't have any leverage, and not only do Shedeur not have any leverage, but he'll get less opportunities to succeed than he probably like what he would if their team was more invested in him. If you pay a kid $30 million and he on his first contract, he gets $30 million, they more likely to stick with you and work you through, some issues than if you are somebody who is, check to check. And so, I couldn't understand. I think that the strategy that they had going into this draft for Shedeur Sanders, I thought it backfired. A lot of times, like Cris Carter said, if you interview for a team, you may impress somebody that may wind up being on another staff somewhere else, and then that person maybe will bring you on to bring you onto their team. But it seems like he burnt bridges before he even had an opportunity to build bridges, and so that's why he found himself sitting at number, he ain't go to the 144th pick.
It's like,
well, the system.
Okay,
the system out there, man. Okay. Like, you're going for a job interview. So for his job interview, he was so concerned about, what his outfit was. His necklace was over $100,000. Like, he hadn't even convinced people that you're the face of our franchise. Matter of fact, he had convinced people that they were better off going in a different direction, even with people who had lesser talent. That's the rub he put on the people.
If that's the case, that's a bad interview, bro.
No, it is the case. He didn't get drafted right. It's no speculation. Like, we're through the draft. We threw 3 days. He threw away at least $30 to $50 million. Wow. At least.
Dude, I just don't. And I hear you on all that. I think it's just.
So, and now I think they have like some, like the fans are supporting Shedeur Sanders, and they selling like, I'm not laughing at them, but now they're selling like some T-shirts and stuff like this, right? So you can go directly to, they have a website set up where you can go directly to his website and you can buy his merch, T-shirts, and I guess I didn't go to the website, but you can, some other things that they may be selling. But I'm wondering, like, as a father, like, do Deion Sanders feel like, like he steered his son wrong, like, because like the talking and the stuff like that, it could have rubbed some people the wrong way, and coming in, I think they misplayed their hand. I don't think they had as much leverage as they thought they had. I think if they had seen Deion Sanders' son, Shedeur Sanders, as like a clear cut number one, or if he had won, you know what? I remember Charlie Ward won the Heisman Trophy and still didn't get drafted. He wound up playing professional basketball, so you gotta be a little bit more, strategic. Like I said, back in the day when Deion Sanders was he could talk stuff and he backed it up. But his sons are not, they're great, they're good athletes, but they're not the type of athletes like him. And so now people want to compare Deion Sanders' situation with his two sons to Archie Manning's situation with his two sons. And I don't know. I think there are some similarities between the Deion Sanders situation and the Archie Manning situation. Um, you got two fathers who want the best. They want their son to go to the best team or where the best fit is for them. But I think the thing with Deion Sanders is he was telling people, in advance that he wasn't going to allow his son to go to certain teams. And I think in the long run, that hurt him. And some people say it's racism, right? And I'm not going to say that it wasn't racism. But I will say that Deion Sanders has been around long enough to know that, like his son was going to face all type of obstacles. And so it's one thing to antagonize, like somebody on a football field where y'all playing, and who your opponent is, y'all playing under certain rules and certain guidelines. But you doing media tours and you talking, and so you don't really know who you pissed off. You know what I mean? You can't really put a face to your enemy all the time, when you out here making public statements. And you don't know what owner you might have pissed off, what general manager you could have pissed off, and so the situation, and I think Cris Carter agreed that they kind of overplayed their hand, when it comes to Shedeur Sanders. And I don't know if his father is, if Deion Sanders is feeling any type of regret, for the way they managed the situation or not. But I mean, it is what it is. Let me see if Cris Carter have any more to say about Deion and Shedeur Sanders.
It's unfortunate that somebody that had less ability or and especially when Dylan got picked, I was like, damn.
This is the thing.
And
people say, well, what about Johnny Manziel? Man, Johnny Manziel beat Alabama twice.
Yeah, Johnny Manziel was
Johnny Manziel was a dude.
He was a dog. Yeah, no doubt about it. He was a different dude coming out with the resume he had. He was a different dude.
And
I totally
there's some
agree with
other
that.
things coming out.
Yeah.
Shedeur threw a birthday party. None of his teammates went.
That's like the movie Draft Day. Remember the movie Draft?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just think that, to me, like some of what was said about Shedeur Sanders was probably, in my opinion, was nitpicking. I don't see the, like Johnny Manziel. Like I said, you always have kids who have different issues and think that they're entitled and stuff like that. And then when they get to the league, you get in those locker rooms and those guys show you immediately that you playing with other professional athletes. And a lot of times, most of those guys in those locker rooms are better athletes than you. Like what's the guy? Johnny Manziel was good great college quarterback. But when you get into the NFL, it's a whole different league. You playing with the best of the best. And so you're not going to be the fastest all the time, and you're not going to be the best athlete all the time. So you definitely have your work cut out for you. And I would think that, I just think that Deion Sanders really, they overplayed their hand. And so let me see. I'm going to read some of the comments though, because some people really, for this interview, some people really went at Cris Carter too. And let me see. Cris Carter was made for TV. His communication and his explanations are excellent. I was locked in all the way. All right, so that was a good one. Let me see. I remember a video before the draft with Cris Carter telling a story about how Shedeur, Shedeur's driver, who CC knows, couldn't have been more impressed with Shedeur's maturity. CC was was raving up and down about Shedeur. Funny how quickly his tune has changed, right? So now I'm thinking that Cris Carter's statement is more so based on like what happened like during the draft. So if Cris Carter has said something like, about his maturity and stuff like that, now that's right there. That's a little bit different than what he's saying right here. And like I said, you had Johnny Manziel, who was another quarterback, was kind of what's his name? What's the quarterback? Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield seems to have gotten himself together though, and Baker Mayfield's doing really good. So hopefully Shedeur will get the same opportunity at Cleveland. Playing on those week-to-week contracts that's just tough, man. Let me see. CC mentioned preparing for a job. I was part of a team. Let me see. I was part of a team doing a complete assignment, and we had contracts for previous 3 years. We prepared our proposal, submitted the same way. So all right, so that's really not about football. I never watched the NFL draft before, and only doing Shedeur and Travis. All right, so these people are like big fans of. A lot of people really hurt and upset for Shedeur, you know, the situation that he found himself in. And I don't know, like, now how you rebound from the situation. Like I said, you really don't have any leverage. You know, you behind the 8 ball. You know, even if he do get to, he's the backup quarterback for Cleveland. That's a tough position to be in. If he's number 2 or number 3, it's still a tough position. It's probably not a position that they, you know, like they was planning for. But I've even heard some people even say that Shedeur Sanders, like an option for him would be going to the CFL. And I was like, CFL, I don't know how much money they make in the CFL. You know, probably not the money that you know, that they was hoping to make here in the NFL. And to be able to work your way up, you know, from number 1, it's not impossible though. You know, you had Tom Brady. What Tom Brady go like in the 6th round? And you know, I don't even know if I want to even bring up Tom Brady, because Tom Brady, you know, you never seen nothing like it before or after that. So, but I mean, Tom Brady, like I said, Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th round. So anything is possible. But I wouldn't, if I was Shedeur Sanders, I definitely wouldn't want to go to the CFL and try to play there and try to, you know. Now Warren Moon played in the CFL for you know, for years, because he wasn't allowed to break into the you know, into the NFL the way he wanted to. So Warren Moon played, you know, in the CFL. So if Shedeur Sanders is really willing to put that work in, then I think, you know, he's the only person who could really turn this situation into a win. But I don't know. His situation is not as dire as you know, maybe we making it out to be. I just think that his situation is worse than what it had to be, though. You know, I think it could have been played a different way. And so, yeah, man, that's just a crazy situation. But I think Cris Carter made a lot of good points, though, you know, talking about, you know, like you're basically interviewing for a job. And whether you get that job or not, you know, you're not just interviewing for the job, that immediate position, but you might be interviewing for a job like later on down the line. And so, you know, they didn't really cover all their bases on that, Shedeur and Deion Sanders. But the other brother, where's he? He went to Tampa Bay, and I think he signed with Tampa Bay already. So that's a good look right there. But as a father, man, anytime you're directing one of your kids, and then, you know, it gotta be, you know, it gotta be a situation where, you know, you kind of hurt, because you want to put your kid in the best position that they can be in order for them to you know, succeed. And this right here, this situation that Shedeur is in, was not, in my opinion, it wasn't handled the best way. You know, he wasn't set up and put in a position where he had the best opportunity to get to where he wanted to be, or get to where he needed to be. Now he's kind of behind the 8 ball, and he's going to have to really he's going to have to play lights out, you know, in order for him to you know, to stick in the league. And there's so much competition. You need every advantage that you can get. You know, there's a lot of great, every year you got good quarterbacks coming out. you know, and so it's going to be a tough road for Shedeur Sanders. But like I said, if you know, Tom Brady went in the 6th round, he went in the 5th round, and so yeah, he can you know, he can get it together if he wants to. If he just grind it out, he probably can do it. But yeah, I just wanted to share my comments about that situation with Shedeur Sanders, and I thought that Cris Carter made some great points. You know, you are always just, you know, you're interviewing for a job, and you have to be you know, you got to be aware of like the image and stuff that you're projecting, that you're being put, you know, you're putting forth. And so yeah, that's all I got for today. Appreciate everybody who tuned in. Make sure to like and subscribe. And with that being said, don't forget to leave a comment, and I'll check you all out on the next video. Peace.